a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching $1 Million Secret on Netflix, The Studio on Apple TV+, Mid-Century Modern on Hulu, and Side Quest on Apple TV+.
So stay tuned to the end to find out BJ's favorite side quest.
Ooh, that's a fun question. Well, while I think about that, how about you tell us how to find out who has $1 million?
You're talking about $1 Million Secret on Netflix. In this competition series, an undercover millionaire must hide in plain sight and evade elimination to keep the money and win the game.
So with this game, Mitu, what do you think of our contestants with one of them secretly having $1 million?
With love. I love that this is a group of people that I'm going to say are not reality TV geniuses. This is a naive group of people who didn't appear to know what the competition was when they showed up to the beautiful set. And I like that. It's very fun to watch like a Boston Rob tear people up on Deal or No Deal Island. Same with Parvati. Same with Dr. Will. It's nice to see these people like wreck shop. It's fun. Sari on season 1 of Traitors. But there is something charming and funny about a group of people who are not prepared for this. Lauren is not happy when she has the first case of the $1 million, which is a very light spoiler. This happens in the first couple minutes. And what ensues of her trying to hide that secret from the others that she's secretly the millionaire so that they don't know that she's a millionaire and thus eliminate her chances of winning is so funny. She starts sweating immediately. She is panicky immediately.
It's a lot of pressure. And like you said, these are pretty ordinary people that you might meet at the coffee shop, see at work, and now they're having to do mind games with each other. I like the fun twist that the millionaire in this episode, Lauren, has her own secret challenge. So while everyone is just chatting and getting to know each other, she has some objective she has to complete with a time limit, and people are going to get suspicious.
Because she also just was not great at that challenge.
It was a tough one.
I also thought it was funny that one of the contestants, Sam, is a former or current, I couldn't quite tell, police officer. And she was so obsessed with sussing out when people were lying. But then as soon as someone was like, Sam, what did you do for a living? She was like, I worked at a dentist's office. I was like, girl, you've been talking about lying for the past hour.
Sam is one of those people that, I'm just going to say it, thinks she is made for reality TV, but is not.
She also could not for the life of her figure out what, I'm sorry, I have to call a pretty simple challenge.
Memorize 8 things.
She just...
You can do it in waves. You don't even have to memorize all 8 at once.
And she saw other people do it because the first person struggled. The second person was like, oh, I can memorize like 2 things at a time and just make the trip 3-4 times. She...
And everyone else did that after. They said, oh, that's the secret to doing this.
Except for Sam. Sam went last and she did not know how to do it despite watching like 6 people successfully then do it. That is so funny.
Light spoiler, she does something that makes her look so suspicious.
Yes.
And then she's shocked when people start questioning her.
Yes. It was so strange. I didn't get that. I was more interested in, I can't remember her name, the contestant, tall, blonde, who lied about what job she had or was clearly lying.
Yes.
They were like, girl, what do you do for a living? And she was like, bartender. And they said, what's the name of the bar? And she was like,
Yeah, that was her. That was Sydney.
Couldn't come up with one name. Can't even lie. Can't even say like, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Like some cute little pithy bar name.
Even make something up.
We haven't all been to Scottsdale.
Say it's new. It just opened.
Just opened. This is it. The bar.
The Pilot Pod Bar opened yesterday.
Podcast, that's the name of my bar. We serve TV.
We also need to talk about what these people are competing for outside of the money. They have these challenges, which have some physical and mental aspects, and the prize is information about who the millionaire is.
I really liked that. I think they figured out on this show what traders, I think, took a little bit to figure out of tying the stakes of the physical competition with what is happening in the more interesting part, which is this like secret keeping social game.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that for the physical competition, which again was very odd and simple, you were able to access a room where you learned like a pretty big secret. Like you get a pretty big leg up on your competition with knowledge.
I thought it was going to be a much more subtle hint.
No, it was just like, I'm going to eliminate half of the possibilities of who the millionaire could be.
And we see something I think will evolve in future episodes. The people that get the information don't have to share it.
Yes, which is going to be interesting. It does complicate things in a good way. So it makes it very, very valuable to be in the room because you want to know if what you're learning secondhand is accurate or not. Because anyone who is not in the room is like, okay, are they messing with me with what they're telling me was revealed in the room? Or is this actually what was revealed in the room?
And what did you think of our British comedian as the host?
I liked him. I think he's funny. I really liked him in the movie Spy. But to your point, I know we were chatting about this show a little bit earlier. He could have been more of a presence or less of a presence. But just where he is right now, I think perhaps if he's on a face you recognize, isn't like an important part of the show.
Yes, I am not familiar with his previous work, and I have no strong feelings about him. I think the show could do just as well without a host. And I think if they wanted him to be more involved, there are a lot of opportunities to like maybe interview some of the contestants.
Will you watch more episodes of $1 Million Secret on Netflix?
I will. I will watch again, seriously. I like the mind games. I like the tension and nerves that people have as they're just sitting around with each other. And I want to see who wins. How do you feel?
I agree. There is definitely a Deal or No Deal sized hole in my heart. And so this kind of fills it.
Close enough.
Yeah. All right, Beej. Well, why don't you take us from a beautiful castle to Hollywood?
You're talking about The Studio on Apple TV+. Matt Remick, played by Seth Rogen, is the newly appointed head of the film production company Continental Studios. And now he has to save the floundering company in an industry that's undergoing rapid social and economic changes. So, Me Too, this is a comedy. What did you think of the cast that they pulled together?
I think it's fantastic casting. I really liked the office comedy of it all. I like that the issue with Matt in being a film executive is that he likes cinema. And so that will get in the way of him making money for the production company. And so I liked the characters that they had around him, which all value the bottom line more than they do whatever it is that they're making. And so with that crew, we have his colleague Sal, played by Ike Barinholtz, who was also possibly up for the job that he has. So that's obviously going to be some future tension. His former assistant turned creative team, Quinn, played by Chase Sweet Wonders. And then I loved the Bryan Cranston cameo of it all as his very scary boss, Griffin. And we have his marketing colleague, Maya, played by Kathryn Hahn, probably my favorite character of the show. And then we briefly see the person whose job he took, Patty, played by Catherine O'Hara. And those two going back and forth, I did not know how much I would enjoy watching Catherine O'Hara sprint circles around Seth Rogen in a scene of like Patty putting Matt through it. But that was so funny.
I think it's fair to say that Patty and Maya were the highlights.
Yes.
Because this first episode definitely has a lot of jokes, but a lot of it is about Matt settling into this new role and understanding what it means to be an artist and create these films and cinema versus being a business executive who makes billion-dollar productions.
Which brings me to my question about the sustainability of the show.
Mm-hmm.
We watch him capitulate around this film idea, the Kool-Aid movie, pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It wraps up pretty quickly in this first episode. There's a particularly funny scene where Maya makes a trailer, but it's for nothing. Like, she just
Nothing
makes
at
a
all.
trailer to get Griffin excited. I laughed so hard. Also, her like number 2, played by Dwayne Perkins, watching Catherine Hahn and Dwayne Perkins go back and forth, very, very funny.
Good chemistry.
So, like, we watch his dream of making like a Martin Scorsese film fall apart.
Literally, Martin Scorsese.
Literally. He disappointed Martin Scorsese in this pilot. And so I do wonder what the sustainability of it is. Like, is it then Matt showing up to different sets and like being disappointing in different ways?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know. I have the same question. I wonder if they will do time jumps to new productions, because it seemed pretty clear in the pilot that they don't have the budget or bandwidth to do 2 films at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they will expand beyond Kool-Aid in this season.
I also wonder if that's how they get all the guest stars in, because they had Charlize Theron and Martin Scorsese in this first episode. So I wonder if they'll keep bringing in like fancy, exciting people like that.
It makes sense. It's all about Hollywood. Who's in the studio?
Who's in the stew?
Is that what they call it?
Yes, that is what they call it in Hollywood.
Well, me too. Will you watch more episodes of The Studio or The Stew on Apple TV Plus?
I would watch again casually. I think that this first episode was funny, but I am concerned about the sustainability of it. So because of the cast, I assume I shall keep laughing and would recommend to the rest of Comedy Hive, but I don't know that I want to watch again seriously.
That's reasonable. I think, this is a tough one. Maybe would watch again while doing laundry. I'll give it a second chance, but Matt's story in particular, like taking on this new position, didn't grab me. It was everyone around him that was more interesting, and that's concerning.
I would watch, and you proposed this, a spinoff of just like Catherine Hahn's character.
Immediately. Greenlight that, please, Apple. Well, while we dream of our spin-off shows, how about you tell us about a show that channels one of your favorites?
You're talking about Mid-Century Modern on Hulu. From the minds behind Will and Grace, this show follows 3 best friends, gay gentlemen of a certain age, who, after an unexpected death, decide to spend their golden years living together in Palm Springs. Moving in is former fashionista Arthur, played by Nathan Lee Graham, and flight attendant Jerry, played by Matt Bomer. And hosting is bra designer extraordinaire Bunny Schneiderman, played by Nathan Lane, and his mom Sybil, played by Linda Lavin.
You said the key word, golden.
Yes.
Did this channel the Golden Girl vibes that, I mean, there's no hole in your heart because you're still watching it, but does this add to that?
This is a twist on my favorite genre of television. I would argue done best by Golden Girls, which is like ladies chatting. So I would argue the first episode really felt more like, and this is not a show, but the movie First Wives Club, where they're brought together by the unexpected death of one of their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Even the song that they do, the way that they sing together and dance together in this pilot episode feels very First Wives Club. But it's my favorite genre. It's Golden Girls, designing women, living single, girlfriends. You get a group of women together who just chat. I'm sat for it. And so I thought they did this one really well in that respect. I would argue that the comedy is not as sharp as Golden Girls and Living Single, for example, but it was charming.
I agree. It has that charm. It's giving me 90s, early 2000s family sitcom vibes, where every character has a distinct role, and you have like the flirty one, the serious one, the one denying their problems. And then they even go as far as everyone is from a different decade in their lives, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So I think some of those conventions feel a little dated, but it is charming to see them brought back.
I also specifically enjoyed seeing Matt Bomer as kind of a ditz, kind of the Rose Nyland character. I haven't seen him in a role like that. I'm most familiar with him from White Collar. And so seeing him as like not the smartest guy in the room, but rather like absolutely the biggest airhead in the room was really funny. And I believed him in that role.
Do you think you got enough of a taste of what their dynamics will be like? Because this pilot was heavily focused on why they decided to move in together.
Yeah, I think this pilot was made with the understanding of people watching it the way that I watched it, which is I went ahead and rolled into that next episode and then and then I just went ahead and finished it. You know, I didn't stop. So I will say that the pilot doesn't give you a great indication of the dynamics, but for me and the rest of Comedy Hive who are familiar with these archetypes, I think we knew enough.
Yes, I think if you're familiar with those shows, you can pick up quickly and see where this is going. And I do like that they spent the time addressing some of the history they have together as friends, and you see a storyline with Bunny dating and how he discovers the importance of his friendships with Jerry and Arthur. And I do like that messaging of like, sometimes your friends are the love that you need.
That's true. That's very sweet of you to say about me. And I loved the little bit that we saw of Sybil, R.I.P. Linda Lavin. She was great on that show.
She was very funny.
So, Beach, will you surprise us all and choose smiling, laughter, joy?
Oh, wow.
In watching more of Mid-Century Modern on Hulu?
I feel attacked.
Okay.
Maybe it's a surprise, maybe not. This is like a would watch while cooking.
Okay.
I did not go straight into episode 2 because it didn't grab me that much, and because I stick to the rules of the pilot podcast where we only watch the pilot episodes of a TV show. Mm-hmm. And I think I would slowly move through this comedy. It's solid. It's charming. It's not gripping enough for me to power through immediately. How do you feel as you reflect back on watching the series?
Okay. For the record, BJ and I changed the day of the week that we record this podcast.
Yes.
I was left alone with this show for like 8 days. So, of course, I was going to watch more of it. It is funny and delightful. So, if you are Comedy Hive, if you are Four Ladies Just Chattin' Hive, then I think you will like this take on the genre, and I would recommend you watch again seriously. Another thing I did in the over a week that I had alone with this show is I watched it with lunch because it's under 30 minutes. I work from home, so I would just have my little lunch and I would watch this show. And it was a perfect little way to take a break.
I'm glad you enjoyed it with the few extra days that were less than a week that you had.
All right, why don't you take us from Palm Springs to Hawaii?
You're talking about Side Quest on Apple TV Plus. In an anthology format, each episode of this show will explore the lives of employees, players, and fans of the video game Mythic Quest. In this first episode, we follow Phil Birch, played by Derek Waters, and his girlfriend Maud, played by Anna Conkle, as they go on a vacation. So me too, as our Mythic Quest fan, how did you feel about this anthology spinoff?
I liked it a lot. I thought that if you weren't Mythic Quest Hive, you could understand what was happening. It's pretty easy to follow that Phil is on vacation and is having trouble breaking away from work. Ian, Rob McElhenney's character on Mythic Quest, is like constantly FaceTiming him and making requests. If you watch Mythic Quest, I think you just have an even maybe deeper knowledge of how hard they work Phil. It is a recurring joke on the show that they will come to him often with last minute requests, and he works all night to build something, and they'll be like, developers, change this. And they just like go down into this basement room where he and his colleagues work and make them change things often.
That makes sense. I only watched the pilot of Mythic Quest, but I feel like I quickly picked up on Phil and Ian's relationship.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of the references Maud made about how Phil has treated work as a priority, and it seems like fans of the show will have a better understanding of what she's referring to.
But you get it otherwise.
Mhm.
Like, if you came into this with no knowledge of what Mythic Quest is beyond a job, not even what type of job, you'd be like, all right, this is a guy whose boss is annoying and doesn't have boundaries and will constantly harass you for hats or whatever he wanted him to design for the characters. I will say that Mythic Quest is pretty funny, but has an emotional center that they've been developing more and more of as the show has gone on. I would say in Side Quest, this was like pretty sad. Or I would say maybe like heart-wrenching. There are some heart-wrenching moments where Phil is anxious. He wants to propose to Maud, but his anxiety is telling him he doesn't deserve her. He's having trouble breaking away from work. He's having trouble finding balance. So I found myself like less laughing and more like almost choking up at certain scenes. Derek Waters played the role beautifully, as did Anna Konkle.
I agree. It was very heavy, the themes, the messaging. You get a lot of laughs with the absurdity of Ian's behavior, and there's some silly scenes that Phil is involved in later in the episode, but otherwise you're seeing a very realistic trauma that Phil is dealing with and Maud is watching play out, and I feel like the viewer is kind of in Maud's shoes where you just want to help Phil, but Phil has to help himself, and we're all just watching.
And it resolves pretty quickly. Like, he figures out how to help himself. No spoiler, but it's an anthology. So in the name, you know that these are stories captured all in one episode. They resolve it in like half an hour.
Yeah, neatly tied up with the bow, no questions, like, it's done.
It resolved so quickly that I thought it was a dream sequence at the end. Like, it took me a beat to be like, this is real life, this is the pacing, this is where we've landed, which was great. It was a beautiful ending, but I thought so beautiful that it was a dream sequence.
That's true. We're in a pretty, I would say, traumatic scene, and then you get a little animated transition.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, where are we going next? Oh, okay, so we're done.
We figured it out.
That's it.
That's why I thought, okay, and then we'll wake up. And I was like, nope, that's the end of the episode. That's all of it. All right.
So with this half-hour anthology format, is this captivating to you?
I will watch more episodes of Side Quest on Apple TV+. Again, I was given a lot of time with these episodes when we rescheduled. So I have seen another episode of this one. And what I would recommend to our listeners, first thing, the second episode is so good. It's about a Black comic book shop owner waiting for an issue of the Mythic Quest comic book to drop to sell to her customers because they're doing like a midnight madness thing. And I like that they're including fans in this anthology in this anthology series, not just employees. The second episode to me was much more interesting than the first. So I would at least recommend that. If you're Comedy Hive, I think that I recommend this show to you. You just have to be like sad Comedy Hive. This is not ha-ha. This is like some chuckles and then deep emotionally grounded moments kind of show.
A little bit of variety in your comedy.
Though I laughed way more in the second episode.
Okay. Well, my rating is going to be based solely on the pilot episode of Side Quest on Apple TV Plus. After watching only the pilot episode, I would rate this as a show I would watch again casually. I think the short format and the anthology format both aid this really well, so you get that full story. Even though the pilot wrapped up, I would say, too quickly, I did appreciate that I got that full story, beginning, middle, end. And so I will watch again for episodes 2 through 4.
I would also say if you're Mythic Quest Hive, I think you'll like this. It is interesting to see how far the world of Mythic Quest touches, because it is hinted at in the show that they have like movies and video games and comic books and all of this stuff. And so you see such an extension of that in this world of side quest.
That is cool. And you had asked about my favorite side quest?
Yeah.
Well, for a period, I think like 2 years, I used to go sailing. That was a fun side quest.
I meant like in a video game, but I love that you mean in the game of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a scientist by day, podcaster by weeknight, and sailor by weekend.
Yeah, well, I finished that side quest, but that was my most memorable.
That's beautiful.
Actually, you know what my most memorable? Sailing's my favorite.
Yeah.
My most memorable is when we went on a skiing side quest.
Oh my goodness. I actually was just talking about that today, and I'll tell you why after this. But that was a journey.
You survived. You learned to ski.
I had to yell for help.
You were safe.
Okay. Well, where can people find more episodes of the very safe Pilot Podcast?
You can find more episodes on our website at thepilotpodcast.com, and be sure to follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners. Ooh, and your favorite side quests to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.